What if I told you that a sociology professor discovered he could cure cancer in mice by accident, and that after he reproduces these experiments over decades, they align perfectly with patterns that we see in the placebo effect? So this is the extraordinary legacy of Dr. Bill Bengston. Flashback to Bill Bankston as a young graduate student with chronic back pain. Now, this wasn't just any back pain. This was back pain that ended his promising swimming career. A friend introduces him to this local psychic, Jim Mayrick, who had only recently discovered that he also had some success with healing.
And so I said to him, put your hands on my back. And he said, then what? And I said, fix it. And he said, how? I said, stop asking me stupid questions. Just do it. I think I came up with the Nike slogan. Just do it. Put his hands on my back, and short story is, I haven't had pain since.
Bankston later said, I then had a choice. Either ignore what happened or try to find out what happened to me. So he gets to know this healer, Mayrick, who holds these healing sessions at his house. Bengston attends the healings as an observer, just trying to figure out what's going on here. Well, he meets another curious observer during one of these sessions. He's a man named Dr. David Crinsley, who already has quite an academic reputation, and he has some connections too. So they become friends, and both being curious, they decide to test this energy healing on mice with cancer.
If we were speaking to a group of biologists, everybody would know the mice we're talking about. Everybody would know the cancer. There's literally over 2,000 published studies on these mice.
But this was a deadly form of breast cancer, which had a 100% death rate within 14 to 27 days. And for 20 years, the research had been ongoing, and not even a single mouse had ever survived this cancer. Not even a single mouse had ever lived until day 28.
And if you're a traditional researcher, these are published in textbooks, they're published in articles, they're published all over the place. No mouse, no matter what you do to it, has ever lived past 27 days. And here's what happens. So if I'm a traditional researcher, the question's pretty simple. I take a drug, a therapy, or something, and can I change the distribution?
So picture a New York lab, bright lights, stainless steel tables, one cage, 5 mice, each mouse injected with the same deadly cancer cells, a tumor that kills 100% of the mice in just 2 weeks or up to 27 days. The protocol was very simple. Just observe this so-called psychic healer, Mayrick, as he tried hovering his hands over the cage. But on the first day, Mayrick gets cold feet.
I wasn't happy. Dave Crinsley wasn't happy. The biology department wasn't happy. You keep going because, as you point out, it takes a while to put this stuff together. It's hard. And so we're stuck with a bunch of cancerous mice and no healer. And so Dave said, you've been around this the longest, you do it. And I went, me? What could I do? Give me a break. I don't believe this crap, let alone think I can do it. And so we did it.
Crinsley tells him he's going to do it, basically. So Bankston does have one trick up his sleeve. He knows Mayrick's method because Mayrick had told him that what he does is picture positive goals. So he makes this list of 20 goals, 20 things that he wants in life. He turns each one into this vivid image. He rapid fires those images in his mind while holding his hands near the cages. So this is what Bankston does. For 1 hour a day, his hands hovering, picturing a fancy car, a tropical vacation, a big house, whatever his goals are. And he cycles this through his mind faster and faster, trying not to think about these dying mice in the cage.
The thing starts along, and the mice start to develop tumors. And I, being an empiricist, say, it's not working. I mean, here are tumors. I don't want tumors. Tumors are growing anyway. Equals, it's the experiment's failing. Crinsley, being a little more either intuitive or thick than me, said, do it a couple more days. And I said, but it's not working. He said, shut up and do it a couple more days. So I did it a couple more days. At the end of a couple of days, the mice had bigger tumors. So they went from no tumor to tumors. I thought it was failing to bigger tumors. And Crinsley said, couple more days, because they're still running around the cage. Couple more days, tumors can start to get really huge. And then they develop a blackened area on them. They then start to ulcerate. I didn't see any of this coming. I'm freaking out because I don't believe this crap. And I'm going, and the things are opening. They're really ugly looking, but the eyes are clear. The coat's clear. The mice are running around with an ugly appendage on them, but they're running around having a good time. Couple more days. The thing implodes. Mice are cured. They're not remitted. They're cured. They're cured. By cure, I mean there's no cancer.
They're completely cured of the cancer. And the researchers try to break this miracle by re-injecting these mice with the same lethal cancer cells. But nothing happens. These mice have permanent immunity. Bankston is stunned. Kingsley's stunned. He says, belief doesn't matter. Skeptics can do it just as easily as believers. The critics, well, they still call it a fluke. So he doubles down. He replicates this at different universities. He goes to Brown, the University of Connecticut Medical School, Arizona State, and he begins to train volunteers in the protocol who think that the whole thing is nonsense. In fact, he'll only use graduate students who, upon telling them what they need to do, will audibly laugh in his face. And some of them even think this must be a gullibility study. But they go through the protocol, the 20 wish images, the rapid cycling, 1 hour a day, and they have an 87.9% cure rate. Bankston publishes peer-reviewed papers, yet the mystery only deepens because not only the mice that they targeted got healed, but the control mice, the ones that were in cages off to the side marked do not heal, well, they got healed as well. So the researchers thought, oh, there must be some sort of contamination. They start disinfecting the cages. They keep moving the control mice farther and farther away. But even if someone who just knows the protocol is near one of the cages, the mice heal. So they end up having to ship these control mice to a different city altogether. And then those mice finally succumb to the 27-day schedule. But did distance matter for the targeted mice that were being healed? No. Distance is meaningless.
I mean, we've done mice experiments and replicated stuff. We've done it 2 inches. We've done it at 2,000 miles. We get the same results.
And he calls this resonant bonding, a theory of an invisible connection that overrides space. Fast forward 35 years, dozens of replications at different locations, yet there is only a single variable that always predicted the speed of recovery. And it's the same variable that predicts the strength of the placebo effect. But we're not going to reveal that just yet, so hold that thought. Let's zoom out a bit. these experiments broke other rules as well. Mice had massive open wounds, yet they didn't get any infections. The cured mice couldn't catch the cancer again, and when you separated mice that had been paired previously, each one retained the healing and the immunity. So now you're thinking, well, that was a really cool mouse trick, but what about humans? Well, the same weird pattern of increased healing rates also occurs in the placebo effect.
So I have placebo effect, modelable placebo effects in mice that mirrors what happens in people, related to sample size, related to dose, related to the same stuff. I get placebo effects in cell cultures. Now, I'm really skeptical. I'm a skeptic anyway, but I'm really skeptical that a lot of cell cultures believe a lot of stuff. I'm less skeptical, but still skeptical that mice believe in a lot of stuff. But the patterns in mice mirror the patterns in cell cultures, which mirror the patterns in people.
Are you ready to know what the connection is between the healing experiments and the healing effects we see in placebo studies?
Now, here's an interesting fact. And by fact, I mean reliable, repeatable phenomenon in multiple labs using independent facilities. The only predictor we have, and again, I've done dose response experiments once a week, 3 times a week, 5 times a week, etc. The only predictor of the aggregate speed of cure is the number of mice in an experiment. The more mice in an experiment, the faster they're collectively cured. So it's harder to do 25 mice than it is 75 mice. It's harder to do 5 mice than 25 mice. The more mice, the faster they collectively cure.
The more mice you have, the easier and faster the cures.
Here's the dirtiest little secret of placebos. Placebo responses are directly proportionate to the stimulus used. And placebo responses get stronger as the sample size goes up.
The bigger the placebo group study, the stronger the placebo healing effect. So Bankston may have stumbled across what exactly fuels the placebo effect itself, healing as a collective phenomenon, not an individual one. And he calls it socially facilitated healing. He says the mice seem to be collectively sharing and amplifying the healing process. And here's the philosophical bombshell. If healing is scaled somehow by connection, what does that say about hospital wards, group meditation, even support groups? Are we unknowingly boosting each other's biology every time we gather? Bill Bengston remained a humble skeptic to the very end. He said, "I'm someone who doesn't know the answer." Yet his data issues a challenge to all of medicine. Maybe healing isn't just about chemistry. Maybe it's connection, consciousness, collective fields that we barely understand. Bengston's legacy asks, in a world where group consciousness might affect healing, what possibilities are we overlooking? And what breakthroughs await those brave enough to look? So I invite you to do your own research. The links are in the description below. Let us know what you think about these studies, and let me know if you've experienced energy healing as part of a group. And if you'd like to try it out, I co-host a free group healing session every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Links are in the description. I'm Johanna, and I hope to see you next time.